And give me just a moment here. Pop out the chat. Booby dooby dooby. Dooby dooby dooby. Pop that up. And let's get going. And welcome, and once again we're doing... I swear to God, he knows exactly when I switch to the camera. Alright. Welcome to the show. For those of you watching on YouTube afterwards, don't forget the whole like, subscribe, bell icon, rigmarole, and you keep the photon. And this is Carlton. And as the title says, today we're going to be doing a Wraith. Because, as I mentioned, one of the villains that I'm working on is a necromancer who's not served by zombies and skeletons and ghouls, but by specters and ghosts and wraiths. And I have these wild, savage, vicious little critters here. You know, absolutely vicious and don't like people. It's Shinju, this is Carlton. Anyway, so tonight we're going to be making one of the wraiths that serves Mr. Necromonster. Watch it, Fuzzbutt. Okay, I'm going to have to set you down on the ground. You're getting a little bit too oomphy. And you kind of poked me in the collarbone there, Fuzzball. Okay, he didn't draw blood. He just kind of poked me right on a nerve. Okay, so. Nope. No. Shoot. Crazy cat. Anyway. You might see that there's a whole lot over here right now. I have finished painting the Chimera on his snowy base with a couple pieces of slate that he's walking on. And the blue from the screen is kind of tinting everything. You can see on the top part the more accurate color. Right here we have the greater Feldrake. Yeah. And the Storm Wyvern. Now, still to paint, I have just fresh off the printer and freshly primed the lesser Feldrakes. And just to show you in scale, lesser Feldrakes are size large. They're a little bit bigger than a tiger, and the greater Feldrake, considerably larger. And then we have over here the Minotaur Trio. You'll see that these two, their axes are pretty much the same, whereas his is larger and has a deeper hook. The blade is bent over. These are just the ones that I have currently printed. I still have to make the evil Prime Minister and his soldiers and the Wraiths for the Necromancer. I'll show the finished Necromancer after I get him printed. No Fuzzbutt. Like I said, they're so feral. Anyway. I'm going to give it about another 5 minutes for people to wander in. And then what I have in mind for these Wraiths and Spectres is to make them basically look like dry undead in robes, but the robes are longer than human legs would be within them, so it makes it look like they're hovering on their base. Also, just like the Necromancer on Thursday, or Tuesday, today's Thursday, yeah, like the Necromancer on Tuesday, I'm not going to make his base, because I'm making the bases for each of these unique. I mean, you've got the rocky terrain for the Feldrakes. You've got the kind of cracked mud, dried riverbed for the Storm Wyvern. The snow with a few pieces of slate for the Frost Chimera. And for the Minotaurs, you've got flagstone / cobblestone. And it's a different cobblestone. And this is Ralph. He hasn't been up here yet today. You can tell it's Ralph and not Carlton because of the red collar. Do you mind? Do you mind? That's the entire menagerie. What are you doing? What are you doing? Apparently wanting head scritches. Before I get started, I'm gonna have to put you back down on the floor. You understand me, Furball? But don't you even think about causing any trouble over there. Do you hear me? Don't you even think about it. Come on, Ralph. Let's get you up. Let go. Down you go. Shoot. Good boy. Alright. Now, no one has shown up yet, but I'll still go ahead. Now, what this means is I'm first going to go ahead here and come into my content library, and I got the jointed base mail. Bang. Now, my parameters, races, dry undead. This is going to be what the body is based on. However, I'm not going to apply the dry undead to him until after I get his poses down. Do you know why? Why, you ask? Well, it's because I've got to put his robe on him. And with him having the dry undead on, it warps the robe. And I don't get to do the fancy cutting that I'm going to be able to do on it. Now, as usual, I'm going to hide the robe. Now, I'm not going to do very much with the classic tilting and rotation because he is unnatural. Instead, what I'm going to do is lift him up in the air a bit, bring this down and back just a bit, tilt the foot back quite a bit, and then go to all, symmetry, and change that from left to right to left, except bing. And then I'm going to rotate the shin just a little. No, I'm not. I'm going to rotate the foot just a little bit that way. Now when I turn on the robe, it looks like that, which is pretty much what I want it to happen. Might be going a little bit too far back, so we're going to grab that hip and kind of pull them a bit more that way. Okay. Now I'm going to take the abdomen, bring it forward, and then the chest, and bring it a lot forward. Because what's going to happen is I'm going to have the arms cross over like that. And in the same way that I'm going to have him be a bit even further up off the ground, make the legs seem unnaturally long, I'm going to take the arms and I'm going to X-scale them, make them even longer. I'm going to do the same thing to the fingers. Okay, now let's X-scale. Then we're going to play around with arm placement. Shoulders drop and forward. Forward and down. Twist that way. Bend in. Bend the upper fingers back a bit and the lower fingers that way to there. Now select from the fingers all the way up to the collar. We're going to symmetry right to left and then adjust this arm. So for example, we're going to pull it out just a little bit. Okay, actually let's go ahead and grab the chest and pin it. Translation and rotation. We're going to grab the forearm and lock side to side because they don't move side to side. Then grab the hand and pull it out. And it bends the wrong direction, so it bends this is here. Oh, that's not the bend that we need. It's this one we need to change the bend on. And then we're going to take, and we're going to yeah, it's going to be the green. Bring it down. And then we're also going to twist it that way and that way. I'm going to rotate that out a bit so that they're not actually poking through each other. Then we're going to take the neck and go way back and the head way forward. The mouth closed. -4. At 70, -70, this one's going to be +70. And now we see what it looks like with the dry undead turned on. Okay. Now we're going to take the feet on these. We're going to unbend them. Oh. We got to do it on the robe, not the expand from selected. R foot, L foot, doing on the toes? Yeah, I was hoping we did them both at the same time. Why scale them? Let's undo the foot bends because there's a little bit too much bending back for the robe. Okay, now let's turn off the dry undead so we can export the robe. Turn him, hide him. Also, we're going to unpin all. Okay. Now, actually, yeah, that's what we'll do. We're going to take the thighs and take that side to side and drop 20 of it. Only for the export. Only for the robe. And also, let's make the toes. Okay. Now, file, export. This is going into foes, necromancer, Spectre O2 robe. It's going to be a total of 3 specters. This is number 2. We hide the robe, make him visible. Then we go back to our thighs and we add the side to side of 20 back in. And then add in the dry undead again. File, export, Spectre O2 body. Okay, now, anyone in there? Nope, not yet. Nope, just me. Oh well. Back to ZBrush now. And we're going to import meshes, legendary foes, necromancer, Spectre O2 body. And then we're going to insert Polymesh 3D, import Spectre O2 robe. Now, before we do anything else, we're going to grab the move tool. Make it much bigger than this. We're also going to turn on that because it's make it much bigger. Transparency so we're not accidentally grabbing the shoes. We're going to grab the center here and kind of pull it out a bit. And then grab the center again and go down. Around to the back. Grab the center and go down. Also going to kind of pull out the back a bit. Pull out the front a little bit. Turn off transparency. Now, what this Wraith is going to be, the robe is going to be kind of tattered, but he's going to have chains wrapping around him. Because he was a bad guy. So, we're going to start off by making this robe quite a bit more tattered. And to make it more tattered, we got to make it smoother. About there. Delete lower. Dynamesh 1024. Dynamesh. Okay, now that we got the move tool. We're going to zoom in. We're going to make sure that the front kind of comes in, because this is going to blend into the body. Okay, we're going to make sure that this comes out a little bit, just a bit, to make it, yeah, there. Just a hint that there once was a butt there. And we're going to grab the center and pull it in. Okay. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go to Trim Lasso. As it says right here, from now on, when I hold Control Shift and drag, it'll create an outline, and anything to the left of the line that I make will be trimmed out. Anything to the right will be kept, which means if I draw like that, well, I lose everything. So I hit Control Z. I've got to draw counterclockwise. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use this to make kind of just a very basic raggedy cut. Oh, it didn't work. Sometimes it didn't work. So let's try it from here. And it worked. Now the thing to note is, no, it didn't work. Okay, let's try it on this side. Just kind of making it irregular. No. Okay, we're going to try a different approach. And for that, I'm popping back to here. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on 3D Studio Max, and we're going to create a subtraction object. A subtraction object is an object intended specifically so that when you do a, you can either do a Boolean subtraction or a Dynamesh subtraction. I prefer Dynamesh because I haven't played around with the Booleans. I haven't had the time really. No, furball. Shoot. So instead I'll be using Dynamesh. Okay, so in order to do this, let me go ahead and pop back into here. This is 3D Studio Max. File, import. And then I'm going to go to Meshes, Legendary Foes, Necromancer, Spectre 2 Robe. Import. And what I'm going to do here is actually no, that won't work because I've changed the shape of it. So we go back to ZBrush. Subtool, duplicate. Turn off these. The plugin, Decimation Master 20. Since this is just going to be for our outline, and there. We have 20,000 triangles. As we zoom in, turn on line fill, we can see it's just triangles. You can't tell really unless you really look. So we're going to export this as Spectre 2 Robe Low. We're then going to delete that. Okay. You didn't see anything change unless you were paying careful attention right around here where the shine is. That's the full resolution version. Okay, now we're going back to 3D Studio Max. File, import, Spectre 2 Robe Low. Import. And there we have the shape that we've altered. Now, gonna go over here to object color just so I can see in here. And we're also going to display properties, we're turning off show frozen in gray. Reselected. This way I can't select it by accident, and I can still see the color instead of it being this muted gray that's almost invisible. Now what we're going to do is we're going to splines, and we're going to line, and we're going to draw low spine, yes. Now, we're going to move it here. Now that's a pretty jagged spline, so first thing we do is we convert it to editable poly. And it looks good. Problem is, you know what happens if we try and mesh smooth this? That. We can't have that happen. So we have to go in and we have to do what's called tessellate. Tessellate, operating on face centers. Okay, and what that has done, it's now made out of proper triangles. And now if we mesh smooth it, yeah, I get a shaping that we don't want, but we can close that. And now we shell. And we increase that inner amount so that this bottom section here, make sure that it goes all the way through the robe. Whoop. All the way through without going too far through. There we go. Now, when we look, we see that we haven't gotten completely through the back side of the robe. So what we're going to do is we're going to collapse this. We're going to select all of the vertexes except the ones that go off the center, and then deselect the ones here. We're going to add a noise modifier just to make it a little bit more erratic. It's X and Y is where we want our noise. We're going to decrease the scale because we want the noise to be a lot more random. We look around back here. Okay, we're going to need to really drop down the intensity of both and really drop down that scale. That's significantly different. Collapse all. And then, to make sure that we are now covering up the full of the back, pull this up. Will also give a slope look. Okay, now we are going to actually let's go ahead and select all of these edges. Bing! Convert from editable mesh to editable poly. Yeah, I forgot to do that. And now we're going to connect 3. We're going to change this to 99. Actually, make it 299. And then to double reinforce that, we're clicking here. We're going to connect, and it's still 299. Okay, now, when I hit mesh smooth, let's see what happens. Okay. Now we're going to collapse it all. Out of curiosity, I hit 7. You can barely see it, but down here in this corner, it says polygons 45,308, verts 25,000. We go ahead, we're going to unfreeze all, select this, and delete it. Now it's down to 5,000. Okay, so this is about 5,000 polys. We're going to export it. Export selected. Bang, 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 bang. wavefront OBJ, Spectre O2 robe cuts. Export. Done. Delete. ZBrush. Anyone? No one yet. Yay. Okay, now we're going to insert Polymesh 3D, import Spectre to robe. No, that's robe low. Import to robe cuts. There we go. Make this visible. Now, you can see a lot better how it's going to be cutting that robe. The bottom center is going to be making contact with the base. It's going to be what's keeping it up. Now what we need to do here is first we're going to divide it a couple more times until it's around 350. Yeah, that'll do. Now we're going to Dynamesh it at 768. Okay, we're leaving the Dynamesh on. We go back to the subtool menu and click that little crescent moon icon. Go down to Polygroups, group as Dynamesh sub. There's nothing really that happens when you click on group as Dynamesh sub except the button flashes briefly when you click it, just like when you click any other button. Go back up to the Spectre robe and make sure, yeah, it's still got its Dynamesh on. Man, he's got its Dynamesh on. Merge down, always okay for this instance. And then Control, drag. And there we have our torn up robe. Now, when we pull up our Spectre, we see that there are a couple points where he's still poking through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Spectre, geometry, subdivide a few times until he's the usual amount. Dynamesh at 768, which is the usual amount. And then I'm going to click on Trim Rectangle. Okay. Now, when I Control Shift, instead of doing a lasso, rectangle. And whatever's inside that rectangle just completely goes away. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, before I merge it in, I'm going to hide him, I'm going to use the Move tool once again, pretty heavy, and I'm going to make sure I'm front only, pull this in a little bit. And then the corners out. And then just to see. Okay, now I'm going to grab a little bit bigger. Oh, yeah, just a little bit bigger. I'm going to grab the bottom down here, center, and pull it back. Then forward. Then back. And forward. Okay. Now we're going to try again with the trim lasso. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to, well, first of all, shrink this quite a bit. I'm going to try to cut in here. And did it work? Yes, it worked. No, it didn't. Gotta make sure I'm a bit more there. Okay. Yeah, just enough to really kind of get the impression. And then smooth it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make this bigger. Smooth it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Give the impression that it's flowing. Now we'll do the detailing on making it really look flowing later. Now it's time for that. And time to shrink the mouse and smooth where it meets the robe. The thing is, this really isn't a robe. It's actually his spectral essence, so there's no need to do any kind of clothing on top of this. This is him fading away into the ether. We will do wrinkles, but not to represent cloth wrinkles. Instead, we're going to do it to represent ectoplasm fading out. So it's going to be more swirly. And to do that, we're going to do one, hide away the hands. Whoop. No. What the hell? There we go. And then let's just go ahead and, while we're here, smooth that out. Okay, frame out. I'm going to smooth here, because that's something that's a bit here. That came about because of the collar movements being a bit exaggerated. That's fine. That upper torso on the back is fine. So now, I'm going to grab the tablet. It's tablet time. It's tablet time! Oh, no. I know that was bad. Okay. And we're going to go to Play Build Up tool. Make it a bit bigger. Where you... Oh, okay, baby girl. In case you didn't know, little white one there usually demands pettings on her way to go eat dinner. And then we're going to go to stroke. What did you do, furball? Lazy mouse, turn it off. And then we're going to kind of just... Alright. I forgot to change the alpha to there. I'm also going to make it bigger. I'm going to make the mouse a lot bigger. Oh. Okay, so it's swirly, chaotic thingies. Now what we're going to do, we're going to switch to slash. We're going to keep lazy mouse on and increase the radius a little bit. Switch to add and drop it to about 20. About 20. And now we're going to increase brush diameter. And we're going to very carefully start off low and build strong. And that's not enough, not strong enough. Let's increase the intensity to, low. And build up strong. So it's like, yeah. We're also refining the direction of these curls as we do so. Now you'll notice that this makes the entire lower half a lot more organic, a lot more flowy. That's kind of what we want here. Because what we're going to do with the upper half is make it more angular, more almost rotting. Harsh, sharp, broken bone areas. Things like that. By making this bottom half up more flowy, it's going to really exaggerate that. Adding that gives it a curl. There we go. Frame out, zoom out. Like I said, we're going to have chains on top of him having this extremely angular looking face. Let's move into the head. And we're going to go to geometry and we're going to subdivide it. Make it 2.7. Alright. Now what we're going to do here is we're going to exaggerate the skull-like qualities. We're going to use damn standard instead of slash for this. Once again, this time we're going to turn off the lazy mouse, reduce the intensity, and severely reduce the draw size. Okay, and then we're going to do things like exaggerate. Intensity needs to increase. We're going to exaggerate the depth of the socket around the eyes. We're going to exaggerate the mouth. Partly because we're also doing this to get rid of the lip, because there is no lip here. We're then going to draw on the corner of the jaw. Where the ear would be defining the corner of the jaw a lot of the times. There's no ear here. We're then going to get the inflate tool. We're going to exaggerate some of the bony landmarks. We need to wait until we shrink down there. Okay. Then we're going to make it a little bit bigger so we can kind of draw on the jaw. We're going to make the jaw a little bit bigger by giving it a Kirk Douglas chin. Then we're going to shrink it again. I'm going to draw on that little bit there, a little left of his flesh, basically. And then we're going to do this just to build up some distance. Now, right here. And then we're going to smooth out right here, to the point of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Almost blending it into an arc. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to use the move tool. Move that back in. We've got our exaggerated jawline. We don't need it to be super wide, because then it starts looking caricaturish. We're then going to slash. I'm going to shrink it a bit. And we're going to come down this edge to there. And this edge to there. We're going to go switch to subtract, shrink it a bit, shrink it a lot here, across underneath the nose, 1, 2, 3. Then we're going to increase it quite a bit, turn off lazy mouse, and shrink it again. We're going to draw in the sinus. Okay. Frame out. There we have our scully head. Now, I'm going to get a brief soda. And now we're going to switch. There it is, mini chain. We're going to shrink this down a bit. And we're going to see what happens if we start under the underarm and come around over the shoulder. Okay, there's a problem there. I need to get a curve. Modifiers or curve? Yeah. Z. Curve step is going to be 0.5. Let's try that. No. Not curve step. It was under modifiers over under tool. Smooth. 0.5. Basically, I'm going to be checking sharp angles. Yeah, there we go. That's what I need. And depth is going to be, yeah, it's 22 is good enough. Start in the underarm, come over the shoulder, and then continue that line down. Whoa. There we go. Bring it across. No. Bring it across there. Obviously, I'm going to end up pulling some of this out of the skin, but the point is, it's there. Come around this way. Oh, that was bad. What happened there? Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to subtool, split unmasked points, and I'm going to click once to get rid of the thing. Now we're going to switch back to the chain, and we're going to turn on transparency, close this, and we're going to switch to the move tool, and we're going to make it kind of big. I'm going to grab here and pull it out, because we want to pull this all out so that it's visible all around the body. Because these are the chains that are making them pull a Jacob Marley. Not Bob Marley, he was a singer, he was a genius. These are the chains that are making them pull a Jacob Marley. Okay. I'm going to kind of fade away and go into him here, because it's better that way. Okay. Now, when we take it, we're going down to deformation. We're going to inflate them a bit. A bit too much. So we're going to do a little bit less than that. That's good. We're going to, once again, kind of move this into him. And we're going to smooth that out and smooth that out. Now going back to the chains, and we're going to start from in here. Oh, gotta have him selected. Start from in here and come around this way. And then kind of just bring that back. Kind of drag it around. So yeah, let's do it this way. Okay, then we're going to take this and we're going to drag it around. Kind of play with it until it goes around. Once again, we're going to pull. Well, there we go. This chaos that we're creating actually helps better define what we're doing with these chains. That's actually pretty good. There. And this is gonna touch that arm. And then this is gonna come up and touch those chains. There we go. Now, once again, split unmasked parts. Click. We're going to do something coming from under here to there. There. And then finally from here up to there. And there we go. So we're going to now split unmasked points again. Click. These two we're going to merge together. Then we're going to deformation. We're going to inflate them a little bit. Yeah, there we go. And we're going to move. We're just going to move the end of this chain in a bit. These ends so they look like they're actually connected. Okay, there we go. This end needs to, let's move topological. This end of this chain needs to be moved in. And in. And there. Yeah, that's good. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a couple random chains coming off of him, kind of flailing about. These are going to be larger. Where this raw size is 36, these are going to be 50. And they're actually going to be more like tentacles. Merge down. And so I'm just going to kind of come from here and actually let's make that a little bit bigger. 65. And then I click on it. Yeah, there we go. And then split unmasked points, click, come from here. Yep. Split unmasked points, click. click. Come from here. Actually, let's tilt it. Come from here a little bit. Yeah, split unmasked points. Click. And then one from kind of up here. Okay, and split unmasked points and click. Now, we're going to use the move tool, not the move topological. We're going to get really big so that we can move the majority of what we're about to do. Okay. Going to pull this one down and into that chain. Go to this one. We're going to pull this one down around that chain. Go to this one, down and around that chain, and this one inside there. Okay. Now then, oh, and I'm going to grab it and pull it back a bit. Frame out. Now, we're going to merge our newer chains together. Our tentacular chains. Go to deformation and inflate them a little bit until they fuse into solid. Yeah, there we go. Now, go to back up the subtool. We're going to merge those down. Geometry, and we're going to subdivide it a little bit. 1, 2, delete lower. And then we're going to merge down. And our baseless Wraith, because this will be finished later, is now at the point where we would normally be adding the base and then reducing the overall total poly count. However, until I make his base, he's staying like this. Chains, swirly bits, skeletal face. This is a Wraith. Now imagine that painted with the Ethermatic blue contrast paint. That gives it that nice little ghostly look. So instead of exporting it as an object file, I am going to save as a ZTL. Spectre 2 body, save. Okay. Now, bing. Do I have anybody? Yeah, I got a couple people. Hey, Board, Ben. Actually, no, this is one of the minions. This is the Wraith minion. One of the Wraith minions for the Necromancer. He's the chain Wraith. He's chained together, but his chains act as tentacles. There's another one that's a caster. Hands up like this, casting with a ragged robe. And the third one, I haven't quite got a nice clear mental image. Hey Michael, you made it right as I finished. Just in case you missed it. Bing. Here's our Wraith. He does not have a base. He has not been reduced in poly count because I've still got to make the bases for the necromantic side of things. So yeah. Well, I started a little early, and Wraiths are simple. They're ghosts. Robe with some swirly bits, chains to represent the chains of his soul. Yeah. Oh, baby girl here. Basically, when I paint that one, I'm going to pretty much just give, prime it white, give it a slap of Ethermatic blue, and then go back in and paint the chain steel. Now, most of y'all missed this. Now, I'm sure most of you have seen the Frost Chimera is done. Painted, printed, the whole 9 yards. And even it's really hard to tell because of the blue from the screen. As I pass my hand, you can kind of glimpse the actual color. But, yeah, got like a snowy field with slate that he's stepping on. And I've finished the Storm Wyvern. Again, it's being washed a bit more blue than he really is. He's got like purple streaks through the back and some of on the underside. You can kind of see the purple streak there. And the nice bright red stinger. Bright red inner mouth with some fangs. And yeah. And the Greater Feldrake is finished. Now, the Greater Feldrake has a couple buddies that have been printed and primed but not painted. The Lesser Feldrakes. You'll notice that they're more of a quadruped build with smaller rear legs and slightly larger front ones than the Greater. I mean, just compare. They've also got smaller tails and much smaller horns. And also on my to paint list is the Minotaurs and the Minotaur Lord. You can see the difference in size here. And he's got that nice nifty little demon armor, souls of the damned pushing through. Well, it's not really, it's just a magical effect that was added as part of the fear enchantment. Oh! And of course, everyone say hi to Carlton. Do you mind? Do you really mind? Meow. Meow 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 meow. Yep. Well, you missed the Ralph ambush from earlier today. Mm-hmm. Also, for those who haven't seen it yet, let me put you down on the floor. There you go. For those who haven't seen it yet, this that you can barely see up here is one of those. It's basically a spice rack. Cost me $20 on Amazon. Be careful, you'll also find them for $45. Same thing, different seller. And I'm able to put over 230 bottles of paint. That rack. Every row of paint from here down and the left-hand portion of the top row, the paint's doubled up. There's two paints per row. 42 bottles per row of the first 5. 42. 210 bottles of paint. Plus another 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 bottles of regular paint bottles on the left-hand side and 10 bottles of Citadel. So, 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, so 16, 26, 236 bottles of paint in that $20 rack right here. So, yeah. Like I said, I got a spare. Now, if you're going to do just the Citadel bottles, because, alright, this is the standard size of a bottle of Citadel paint. This is 12 milliliter. This is the standard size of a Vallejo bottle. It holds 17 milliliters, as you can kind of make out right there. 17 milliliter. Because it's so much bigger around, you can only put one row across here. So it doesn't hold as much of the Citadel as it does of the Vallejo, the Army Painter, the War Color. 3 different brands. And they all fit beautifully in this rack. So I'm putting these back where they were. Actually I do, but the watercolor paints don't play nice with the regular paints when it comes to mixing. They don't mix well because this uses a gelatin base. You know, the medium used by the watercolors is a gelatin acrylic, a gelatin water base. The medium used by Vallejo and Army Painter and Citadel is a generic acrylic medium. Also, with these, if I wanted to use these beautiful, beautiful, absolutely perfectly transparent inks, after I put them on, I have to let them sit and dry for at least a day before I do anything like dry brushing over top or placing on a varnish, matte or clear, matte or gloss, because it peels off. The gel medium used by the watercolor paints until it fully, okay, yay, he didn't break, until it fully dries and hardens, that gel medium can dissolve itself. I've been painting since 1984. I remember brands of paint that don't exist anymore, like Armory and Raul Partha, the Partha paints. Come to find out that the first paints I ever used, though, a water-based paint called Poly S, is still available. Now, they were horrible. They were very horrible. They were little glass bottles with a screw-on metal cap. And poorly ground pigment, so it was rough and dusty and sandy and grindy. Yes, Poly S paints are still available. I saw them on a list of paints available. I hated them. I hated the Poly S paints once I got... Alright, my first paints were Poly S. I was then going back and forth between Poly S and Armory paints, which were similar, a little bit better ground pigment, and twice the size of a bottle. And then someone introduced me to the original Citadel paints, which were leagues better than either one. There are people who still do that. There is a trick now, a technique involving using acrylic base coats and oil washes for things like, larger, more rounded detail objects, because the oil washes don't coffee stain. But I saw a video, someone found an old store of 20-year-old Partha paints. Partha paints stopped being made the same time that Raul Partha went out of business, which was when FASA went out of business in, I think it was 2001, because Partha got bought by FASA. Anyway, Partha paints weren't quite as good as Citadel, but they were better than Armory or Poly-S, and they were in plastic bottles with plastic screw-on caps. Well, anyway, he finds a set of Partha paints in his storage, opened them up, and about half of them were still good for a given value of good. But yeah, when I was really active painting before, Citadel was leagues ahead of everybody in overall paint quality. You know, the overall quality of the paint that was coming in the bottles was better. It also wasn't as bad as these bottles about trying out. These particular pots, the new pots, are horrible. When you open them up, you'll notice it's got this little tab on the back. You pull it back, and it catches on that tab. When you close it, most people close it and they think, okay, that sounds good. They don't notice the back of it's still open. You've got to go around the cap and press all the way around the cap to make sure it's sealed all around, or your paint will dry out within just a couple months. Now, Michael, were you asking where Poly-S paints were, or where did where did Board Trouble see my work? I thought you were asking where did I find Poly-S paints. This is a mosquito bite, right on the hollow of my throat. Isn't that fun? Yay! You'll notice that I'm not scratching it. I don't have a very strong itch response to things like mosquito bites. Now, the plan for these figures, obviously, the lesser Feldrakes are going to be painted similar to the greater Feldrake, except probably a little bit lighter in color, a little bit more less rich of a green and more of a grayish green. And of course, big pink open mouth. The rocky terrain is going to be painted similar, although the terrain is less dynamic on these as it is on the big one. The Minotaurs. The two smaller Minotaurs are actually going to be painted with a different shade of brown than the bigger one, because part of the plot line is that he took over a rival clan, and he's not from the same clan. He's got a little bit different. So while he's bigger, he's shaggier, and he's going to be a different shade of brown. I don't remember exactly where it was I saw Poly-S paints. I know that one of my local hobby shops can actually order them. I know what I'll do. I'll go ahead and click this little plus sign on a Firefox tab and Google Poly-S paint for sale. Poly-S scale paint products for sale. eBay. Polyscale, which is Poly-S. I got the model railroad paints. Poly-S miniature paint. Yeah, see, Poly-S was made by Floquill, or at least it is now. Let's see, Harvest Skull. Let's see if they have Signal Green, ADF Blue, Brunswick Green. This is almost entirely their, yeah, this is their, what do you call it? Trains. It's still those same classic glass bottles. By manufacturer. Let's see what they've got under Floquill. It's paint. Flow quilt. Yeah, they've only got the flow quilt poly scale. Wait a minute. The paints are still available, but I'm seeing an article from 2013 that they're being discontinued. That's odd. Polyscale hobby and model paint. Hobby link. That's Japan. Yeah. But it's $20 a bottle now. Oh, wow. That's a no-go for me. $20 for a bottle, a glass bottle, about this, actually a little bit smaller in physical size than one of these. Probably holds more than 12 milliliters, probably closer to 15 or to 18. But a glass bottle of paint for $20. Yeah, no. And it wasn't good paint. I may have liked some of the colors, but the paint itself, if the grain of pigment in a Citadel or Vallejo bottle is that big, if you scale it up that big, the polyester paint pigments were like that. It was dusty, it was dry, you couldn't do a wash on it because it would coffee stain no matter how smoothly you tried to do it. Just wow. Yeah, nostalgia only goes so far. The very first figures I ever painted were a set of 3 Ratham lizardmen about that big. And I painted them dark green and bronze armor and weapons with a black wash. Just black. They actually didn't look too bad, so I was encouraged. They actually looked better than some of what I was seeing in some official TSR works. I mean, there were some pretty bad paint jobs in some of the Dragon magazines. Really bad paint jobs. Because they weren't focusing on the paint job. It was just they slapped paint on, put it on the table. We're doing an event. We're doing this is the session we're doing. Whereas, like White Dwarf, well, they didn't just want to sell the game rules. They also wanted to sell the miniatures and the paints used to paint them. So they wanted to have the absolute best quality figures they have, and in comes John Blanche, who started using oil paints on the miniatures, and he completely changes the miniature painting game by introducing what would now be called wet blending. That's basically, I paint, let's say I wanted to make his axe blade look like it was going from black to glowing red, like it was obsidian that was superheating. Well, what I would do is, as the black was wet, I would then paint on a black and red mix, and then use a brush to blend where the two meet, and then go to a little bit more red and blend where the two meet, and then some orange and red, blend, and then some orange and blend. Mixing the paint directly on the figure. Wet blending. And he was using these techniques from oil painting, and they've become almost standard nowadays. Yeah, you had to be careful. Oil paint is a much thicker paint. With the acrylics, what most people will do is they'll thin them down before they actually put them on the figure. Because if you just take, especially, especially the army painter, super thick. If you just paint it directly onto the miniature, it's like glue almost, and it will cake in all of the detail and just smother it. It'll also leave brush strokes behind where your brush was going. Thin it down, and I've made my own particular mixes for thinning with instead of water. This is for glazing and thinning base layers, and this is for making washes. You can see the out of 10, this is mostly water. Then it has a good bit of medium and a tiny bit of flow aid. This is mostly medium, has a good bit of water and a tiny flow aid. So this is thicker than this. The thinning agents not only let the paint sink into all the crevices of the detail, they also, because it's thin, it has a the surface tension is stronger than the thickness of the liquid. It doesn't keep the brush strokes, so you've got a smoother surface. Get a load of this. He's a ham. Are you a ham radio operator? Are you a ham sandwich? Or are you a camera hog? Oh no, he doesn't care about being on camera. He just wants to be in my hands. Yeah. Yes. Now, there are certain times you don't thin paint. Go on, shoot. One of the primary times that you don't thin your paint is what's called dry brushing. And dry brushing, no fuzz. Dry brushing was a godsend on this particular model because of all the fur. You can see, even in the poor lighting coming off the TV, coming off the monitor, you can see how the ends of all the little puffs are a brighter white than the rest of it. I'm going to show you my top secret method for, or my top secret weapon for dry brushing. Makeup brushes. Makeup brushes. Because, just to use this one as an example, this is so soft and tough. You dab it into the paint, you wipe it off on paper towel or a piece of paper, and the softness of the bristles combined with the rounded shape, when you brush over your figure, it, instead of having that rough, chalky look that dry brushing normally has, it smoothly transitions the dry brushing. So that you can't even tell it was dry brushed in some cases. It was that good. So, there he is. I have done a few changes to the Necromancer that I did back on Tuesday. The trim to the outer pauldron on the right shoulder has been removed, and this is being sculpted to be more like a crowned skull. Or at least a wraparound of a stylized skull shape with a crown. So the crown comes up this way and the skull's teeth go down that way. And time to get another can of soda. Yeah. Now, I've seen some more word on the local hobby shop there, Board Trouble, that's opening up in East Memphis. They are currently waiting only on city licenses. Once they've got all the final approval from the city, bam, they're open their doors. Soft opening, And then the first weekend after that will be a grand opening. So yay! In the trash can you go? And put that book on top. Now, it is 9 o'clock. The Wraith is pretty much done, except for except for the base. I've got to make the base separate because it's not going to be one of the standard bases that I used for, my usual sculptures. Like this, like the wooden planks here, or the runes on some of the others, or what have you. So, I'm going to make it original, and then get going. Now, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night for tonight. So I'm going to hold up my hand. I'm going to count from 5 to 1. Get to 1, I'm going to say something goofy. And then, when I see the log out and go, good night. So, that's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, and a 1. Farewell, Suitcase Chan. We hardly knew ye.